So I think sometimes on these videos, since Trump became president, it gets a little bit scary, some of the conversations we have. And I've been told that. But I think we don't do ourselves any favors by sugarcoating things. And you almost have to kind of peer around corners to try and predict what Trump will do. And it's scary because there's a business term called Bayesian updating. And basically, it says that if you, this is oversimplifying it, but if you want to kind of predict what a company is going to do, look at what they've always done. Now, if you apply that to Trump, it's a little scary. It is frightening. Trump is responsible for hundreds of thousands of preventable COVID deaths when he was president the first time. And he knew they were preventable. He chose to lie, as we know from the Bob Woodward book. Trump knew what was coming. We also know that he and many around him thought that it would be better if older people and sick people died, and that older people would be more than happy to sacrifice their lives to build this herd immunity. So we know what happened there. Now, of course, Trump doesn't admit any of this, but he's responsible for it. And the media let him off the hook. But when you look now at what he's doing with migrants, he is having ICE apprehend people who are legal residents. It's unconstitutional what he's doing. An executive order does not get rid of birthright citizenship. But they're going into schools, they're going into churches now because he's lifted the restriction that would keep ICE from going into churches, which are sanctuaries. He is now having ICE detain people for speaking Spanish. Just assuming that, well, that must mean that they're here illegally. So now they know that they are apprehending and arresting people who are not illegal migrants, who are not here, undocumented. And I don't even think that Trump and his racist people around him really care if it ever all comes out in the wash. I think they just want to get rid of people. They like the cruelty. Remember, Biden deported more people than Trump did in Trump's first presidency. But if it's not cruel, if it's not brutal, if it's not something that Vladimir Putin would approve of, well, it doesn't count. Remember, it was Vladimir Putin who told Trump regarding the Black Lives Matters protesters, told him to dominate the streets. And that's when they went out with tear gas, and Trump holds the Bible upside down. And he wanted to shoot them. Well, right before that, he had a conversation with Vladimir Putin, who told him you have to dominate. So this is who he listens to. This is real, folks. This isn't hyperbole. It's just there's such a fire hose of chaos with Trump. We sort of lose sight of some of the stuff, or we forget about it. It's all as per published reports. This isn't somebody whispering in my ear, little secrets, but I pay attention when I read something or hear something that's been reported and backed up and documented. So, Bayesian updating. What will Trump do? Well, we already know that he wants to get rid of people that he considers to be undesirables. And by get rid of, he does mean die. He wants them off the books. He doesn't want them around. He doesn't want them costing society any money. He doesn't want a lot of old people on Social Security. He's got other plans for all that money. And those other plans include the oligarchs and his wealthy friends. Payoffs. They are looting. The raping and pillaging of our country is underway. And when you look at everything Trump has done before, it makes perfect sense. We are past a point in time where anybody should give him the benefit of the doubt. That there are still people who do so just because our media feels compelled to do so is frightening, which is why we rely on foreign media as much as possible, because they're getting it right. And rely on people who are in the room when Trump does these things and says these things. His firing of the air traffic controllers and air safety folks is directly resulted in the crash last night at Reagan National. Trump is responsible for those deaths. They happened because of him, because of his policies that he instituted. He did this. No, he will not take responsibility for it, but we should make it clear to everybody that we hold him responsible and push back on those who defend him on this. You have to push back in your personal life. Again, we don't have the big mainstream media now, the sort of this, overarching authority on everything that we kind of looked to before. So it is incumbent upon you in your own life, your own community to set the record straight. And I think that's very difficult for some people who still want to keep their MAGA friends and that sort of thing. I guess it just makes life easier for you. I don't know. But Bayesian updating, that get back to the point that I wanted to make. We have Pete Hegseth going on Fox News rather than dealing with, the job of Secretary of Defense. So I guess when he sobers up, he still is in the habit of going on Fox News. He is now confirming that Donald Trump wants to take a lot of the migrants on their way to being deported and put them in Gitmo and Guantanamo Bay. I guess there's 33,000 of them, claiming that they are, these are the criminals. Well, he's labeling a lot of people criminals who aren't. In fact, I think it's his own press secretary, who is dumb as a mud fence, by the way. I mean, this chick is unbelievable. And she's claiming that just by being here in this country, they're criminals. She's claiming a lot of things that aren't true. But they go to Guantanamo, and then what? Now, what Hitler did, what Germany did with the Jews in Poland is, they went to in these ghettos. But, when Trump wants to deport people, he's going to find out that it's expensive. In fact, he's even using the more expensive, I think, military planes instead of the regular planes that they usually would use for something like this. So he's costing us a lot more money because he wants the drama, he wants the impact. But to assume that going to Gitmo means then you eventually go back to your country of origin or the country of your parents' origin, I don't think that we should count on that. And we won't know what happens once they're at Gitmo. But I think Trump has a final solution in mind, and it's a combination of things. He wants to kill off the elderly, the sick children. Recall that he told a relative about a sick child, we should just, that he wanted to cut off the insurance. He thinks that you should just let those kids die. This is all, people have all attested to the fact that he says these things. He wants this. He likes the barbed wire that migrants swim to and get caught in and die. He likes this. He wants to shoot them as they come over to our country. He likes this. He wants to shoot our own people for protesting, but not the January 6th domestic terrorists, the insurrectionists who tried to overthrow our government for him. I hope we get to the point very soon where we don't even have to have these arguments, where when we see these things happening, we understand, we are connecting the dots. We all become students of history a little bit, even the history of Donald Trump. So that when it seems too brutal and bizarre to comprehend, we understand that it is happening. One reason we have Donald Trump is that too many people refuse to believe what they were seeing with their own eyes and hearing with their own ears, because we couldn't comprehend that this was really happening. That we hadn't learned our lesson, that humanity hadn't learned their lesson after Adolf Hitler and the Holocaust. But I do not believe for a minute that Trump has anything else in mind for the migrants that he's sending to Gitmo than to exterminate them. When you look at what he's always done, you know what he'll always do. What he's going to do, because he can. His own MAGA cultists, these idiots that did this to our country, are in shock that they are the recipients of some of this bad stuff. Some being deported. Yes, Latinos getting deported, thinking, well, they were safe. But the people who voted for Trump, who needed their Medicaid, and all of a sudden All the portals in all 50 states are shut down. The social services, the things they need. Many of us, what if he cuts off our Social Security and that's your only way to support yourself? Do not think that he won't do it, people. He will. He admires Vladimir Putin, and Vladimir Putin keeps control of his people by keeping them sick and poor and in chaos. And if you don't think that Donald Trump isn't doing the same thing, then you're not paying attention. And I do believe that Donald Trump would very much like to, give window cancer to journalists, much in the way that Vladimir Putin has. Don't think for a minute that this isn't possible. In fact, the smart money would be on getting yourself to the point when you think this through and connect the dots and pay attention that it's not just possible, it's likely. Trump actually, as part of his plan, as a strategy, wants Americans to die. There's almost like some eugenics thing going on here. We know Elon Musk feels that way. The smartest, the richest, the strongest, what they perceive to be strong. They're already messing with our food supply. And as I've said before, I think the deal is we know that Putin wants Ukraine. It is the breadbasket of Europe, the breadbasket of the world. And that's one reason why Ukraine is so important to Putin, much in the way that Trump wants to take Greenland. Just take it. So our migrants that work the fields and give us our food, gone, many not showing up. So the food is rotting in the fields. Then with the tariffs, we can't import the food that we need. Okay? So if California, if they're our breadbasket, they can't help us. So what do? What does America do? Between the tariffs and the mass deportations and the fear that Trump is instituting, we could find ourselves, Trump hands Ukraine to Putin, and then Putin swoops in as what? Our savior, and we become in part dependent upon Vladimir Putin for our food supply. That is a terrifying thought. But everything I've just laid out before, and I've talked about this before, but what I just laid out, when you connect the dots, a few years ago, you say, oh, that's just nuts, Sherry. That's just hyperbole. That would never happen here. I think you guys know differently. I think you guys know differently. But right now, my concern is for the people that Trump wants to place in Gitmo. And then I think we'll lose track of them. And sorry, folks, but I don't think he has any intention of doing anything with them that would cost money, like actually deporting them. He's capable of it. That's what you have to ask yourself. That's the question. Look at everything about Trump. I mean, I don't even know if there's a comprehensive list somewhere, but you know enough. Think hard about this. And you have to ask yourself, is he capable of it? And I think you know the answer to that question. And the answer is yes, he is capable of it.